The only reason why we're in the first version of Codename Allnight is for demonstration purposes. Other than that, just burn it all down, which technically I did. What's up everyone, it's Izzo. Welcome to the lab and welcome to Devlog 17. Today's devlog is a little unconventional. It's more of a story time than anything. By now, we all know and hopefully love Codename Allnight, kind of like the baby is Savage. And thanks to Devlog 16, I hope everyone's been introduced to the second baby is Savage, Galaxy Frontier, the arcade-style maze-running shoot-'em-up game that used to be my super secret project. The crazy thing is, Codename Allnight, the 2D survival game, was my first attempt at trying to enter the game industry. My second game is a lot more simple than the first. So a good question might be, why would I dumb it down for my second project instead of do something more challenging? Well, the best way to answer that is to go back in time and visit my mistakes with Codename Allnight. Because, well, it was the mistakes with Codename Allnight that really guided the creation of Galaxy Frontier. I'm hoping that my journey can help anyone that might be on this path too, and if not, hopefully you still find it enjoyable. So, let's talk about the first time I tried to release Codename Allnight, the mistakes I made, and some of the smaller takeaways that pushed me towards Galaxy Frontier, a 2D, retro-inspired, arcade-type survival game. Wait, that's what it says on the screen, right? Okay, great. Yeah, so this is the vision of Codename Allnight. You know, this is really ambitious, but it's a tad bit unrealistic for the first game you're planning to take to that production phase. Wait, is that even a real thing? I think I just made up a new phrase. Okay, after a quick Google search, no, the production phase isn't something I made up. It's been here. Okay, great. Let's move on. Anyways, Codename Allnight was meant to be the first game of my game company, SAVG. That's where I messed up at, and also it leads us to mistake one. My goal was a lot bigger than my skill level. You see, game design is like a lot of other things. You work your way up to more complicated projects and exercises. You don't start by trying to create a game in one of the most complicated genres imaginable. You start small with, say, a Pong or a Snake, and you work your way up, eventually making a crazy RPG, or a Call of Duty, or a Minecraft. Not just start trying to create a Minecraft or a Call of Duty out the gate. The problem quickly became execution and delivery. I mean, just look at this. These 3 videos were released all about a month apart, and they were all just on fixing one feature. Now just imagine this, but for every feature in the game, and a release date that's approaching sooner rather than later. Yep, that was the fate that a younger me faced. It had effects everywhere, from the quality of the game, making due dates, to even my mental state. I'm glad to say I do have a fix for this though. You guys have already met it, it's Galaxy Frontier, a much more simple game. Alright, let's talk about my second mistake. Not enough studying. For this one, we gotta go back to the beginning of Codename Allnight, to a younger Izzo. When Codename Allnight was started, all I had was a dream, a lot of experience with very small unfinished games in Team Fusion 2.5, and a couple of Hello World programs in different languages. Well, let's just stop right here and analyze that. Team Fusion 2.5 is a program that allows for the quick creation of programs and games. It has a very low learning curve, as in you don't need any programming language to make programs with it at all. Great for simple programs, bad for large-scale programs. Let's go back to the game idea. Yeah, that's a large-scale program for sure. Also, if I wasn't clear, I had basically no experience with programming. I mean, really, what's a Hello World program? Yeah, it's nothing, literally the beginning of learning any language. Why is all this important? Well, let's take a step back to the large-scale project. For large-scale projects or games, you need a few things like data management, code maintenance, or even concepts like a game loop or how important it is to, well, making a game. When talking about data management, this can be as deep as how computers encode, organize, and display data, or something more specific like organizing objects in a game. For a game like Codename Allnight, where there's a bunch of items and a variety of enemies, organizing objects is essential to making this project easy to manage. Well, guess what? There is no object organization in Codename Allnight. Wait, I think I have a clip for this. All the exterior building objects need to have a common property, the same name at the same index, that I can use to basically select the object and see what's going on with it. These objects all have varying amounts of values in different places. The only way to get around this is to find the building that contains the most values and then add one to that. then go back and make all of the other buildings have that one value in common. Yeah, that was a clip from Devlog 12 where we made buildings more performance friendly. As we can see, buildings are clearly a great candidate for being grouped together. Similar functionality, a lot of different buildings, and the possibility for specialized features. Well, that never happened, and as such, as I said in Devlog 12, this is where things get iffy. I'm not going to go over everything that I listed off for large-scale projects. If you guys want a more in-depth look at stuff like that, just let me know in the comments. Maybe I can do a separate video on that. For now, let's talk about the fix. It kind of happened by accident, but I started studying like halfway through Codename Allnight to take on future projects in Unreal Engine, which can use C++ for the programming language. That exposed me to some of the concepts and made me realize that Codename Allnight lacked, well, if not most of them, then all of them. Long story short, I hit the books and started applying changes. Alright, with this mistake out the way, let's move on to the next. Now, this wouldn't be a real mistakes video if I didn't touch on this next point, scope creep. Scope creep, according to the Project Management Institute, is adding additional features or functions to a new product or work that is not authorized. This one's serious, so serious that I went to the internet to get the proper definition. But I gotta be honest, I don't like this definition like that. Let's just dumb it down and say it's adding anything to your game idea once you've already decided it's begun that production phase. The game idea for Codename Allnight didn't start off as complicated as a full-blown 2D survival game. It was really meant to be a run and gun game, but let's just say that I dropped the ball on that one. Whoops. In total, there were about 9 features that were added to the game after it was in the production phase. It's time we explore how I ended up designing a full-blown 2D survival game. Hey guys, Editing Izzo here. Just so there's no confusion, I wanted to give everyone a heads up. For the features segment, I'm using the old version of Codename Allnight that looks something like this. And I'm also going to be cutting in with some newer footage that looks something like this. The whole purpose is to show where the game started at versus where we're at now. I hope everyone enjoys the edits, and I'm giving it back to Lab Izzo to start with the features. The first feature was the housing mechanics. Look at these beautiful buildings in the game, and these slick mechanics to allow seamless entry and exit of a house within a 2D space. Add 1 point to development complexity. You might want to buckle in. We got about 8 more features to touch on. When you really think about it, a lot of Codename Allnight really shouldn't exist. But, oh well. Second, we got looting. The best way to get items of all types in the Neo colonies. I grew up on Borderlands, so looting had to be central here too. That's another point for complexity. Really, that's more points than just one, because we gotta think about crate design, crate generation, and crate loot tables or possibilities. That's like 3 points. Third, we have weapon customization. Codename Allnight's unique approach to a weapon system. One gun, multiple barrels, multiple bullet effects, and multiple types of bullet capacities. Officially introducing the Unigun and another point for complexity. Okay, I can't do this. This looks horrible. So much better. Look at that modded Unigun. Sorry, I had to do something. I couldn't just show this one off with the older graphics only. Okay, moving on. Fourth, we have a crafting system and a material gathering system. Really, in retrospect, I don't know what I was thinking. This list already has me exhausted. Anyways, the crafting system only uses 3 materials to try to mitigate how hard this would be to implement. It didn't really help. Let's just say coming up with crafting recipes got hard since, you know, there's only 3 ingredients to use for each recipe, so let's just go ahead and add another point to complexity. Fifth, we got armor. There's gotta be a way to survive longer in the Neo colonies, right? Well, now there is. We got 2 types of armor and possible upgrades. And guess what? This is another point for the old complexity meter. Sixth, we have consoles, little machines littered throughout the world that will allow for the modification and interaction with items such as armor and guns. Without them, you'll always have level 1 armor and a base unigun. Fun stuff, and another point to complexity. Seventh, we got something to help with that problem. Skills. Yes, I'm not playing around. Skills were added in to help with the problem that consoles introduce. At high levels, you can mod your items yourself. Speaking of high levels, this is a high level feature to tack on somewhere in development. Another point for complexity, everyone. Eighth, we have base building and tower defense. Now you can cover whatever building you set up in with traps. And you can also craft compact buildings that when interacted with can actually turn into full buildings. Traps can also be looted. Just amazing. And another point to complexity. What are we on now? Oh yeah, 9. Oh, it's the last one and the craziest one to add in halfway through development. It's a freaking storyline. Yes, I added a storyline to Codename Allnight. Codename Allnight is the official name of the game, and the storyline revolves around trying to figure out what happened to the Neo colonies. The Neo colonies being a historically twisted North America back when it was still just the colonies. You basically collect these letters which lead you to libraries with clues to the past. You can collect them and unlock a secret society and 5 bosses to fight. Anyways, backstory aside, you guys know what it is by this point, another point for complexity. Oh, would you look at that? We're done with features finally. Now, I take game creation in 2 different phases. First is brainstorming, second is research and development. Both these phases I allow myself to experiment, adding as much as I want to an idea or taking away from it. It's literally a sandbox just to flesh out ideas and experiment with them until I get something that I like. The end of this phase would technically mark the transition to the production phase. Next up, it's time to talk about these graphics. I clearly did not take graphics for the game seriously. Really, I didn't take art seriously. I mean, just look at this. This can't be serious. Mind you, these graphics are over like 4 years old, so yeah, I'm gonna bag on them. I thought, and I mean I genuinely thought, that these graphics would be counted as retro graphics, and be at worst, overlooked for the gameplay. No, these graphics are bad, and coming back to this version, it's just a spoiler on how badly these features were actually implemented. The only reason why we're in the first version of Codename Allnight is for demonstration purposes. Other than that, just burn it all down, which technically I did. I had 2 fixes to this. First, and most obvious, I hit the books and learned about art. Honestly, I just learned the basics, just enough to get started on redoing all the graphics. I learned a few different art styles, color theory, and a few other things. Perhaps the most important art style was pixel art, the way of the retro game. Another new thing that I learned were color palettes. Yeah, I tried making game art without knowing what a color palette was. Let's just call that bold. Anyways, palettes are basically a set of colors that early devices had access to. With digital art, it can refer to a group of colors for a piece of art. The range of colors were really limited for older devices like the Game Boy and NES. Also, the pixel count was very limited back then too. Things like pixel resolutions, you know, the 720p and 1080p numbers, yeah, that goes into it as well. Anyways, those 2 things went into the reason why old school graphics were what they were, which is essentially a very early occurrence of pixel art. What you can do with a square and a dream. That's what Codename Allnight's art style would be, and all its colors would come from or be derived from the classic NES color palette. This experience is what inspired the next phase of my game development cycle, the graphics phase. Graphics really do need their own stage and even special attention throughout development. Learn from me, take it seriously. I don't believe you need 4K quality graphics for a game, but whatever way you decide to go, take the graphics seriously. Even low quality needs attention. We're creating art after all. This next one is a real enemy to indie developers. Well, at least I'm sure some of you will feel me on this one. We're going to talk about publishing and promotion. Look, let's just cut to the chase. Have someone work on promotion for your game if possible and as soon as possible. Don't be an Izzo and try to do everything by yourself. There's my warning. You don't have to take it, and I commend you if you don't because, well, welcome to Mount I Reach Base. I'm also on that mountain, guys. I don't have a good answer for this as I'm still fumbling around with it myself. Hey guys, it's Editing Izzo again. So I just want to be open. Sometimes I run out of ideas for animations, and these animations with my avatar can take a lot of time. I'm trying to find a way to babble, which I tend to do, but not have to animate a bunch of stuff for it. So instead, I have some test game recordings that I'll use for the time being. Anyways, you know how we do in the lab, so let me know in the comments if you like this way of doing things. It's all just an experiment, you know how it goes. Anyways, let's get back to the regularly scheduled lab program. I made a lot of mistakes my first time through. I accidentally hired a bot service to manage my social media. There I go, I'm taking my own advice. That was horrible though. The numbers went up, but they weren't what I thought it was. It was fake numbers. I always struggled with developing and also making all of the content for social media, so the development time for Codename Allnight went up and the quality of the content went down. Another loss. I had no organization behind my promotion. The only goal was to get the game out there. That's great, but just a little secret, whatever you're promoting and how you promote it, there should be a reason and an intended result for whatever it is. I could talk about the fix, but that's a part of the magic and also a part of a big experiment in SAVG, so I'll just keep that to myself for right now. But let me know if it's working, guys. Alright, we're on the last leg of this mistakes of an indie developer tour. I saved the best for last. Unrealistic Timetables. Oh, this one's just a monster. No, not that monster. Yeah, more like that. Okay, let's talk about this. With development, anything can happen. I really do mean anything. Your engine can update, break something you implemented, and boom, you're behind. You can be testing the day before release and find a crazy game-breaking bug. Anything can happen when you start programming. Wait, I think I actually have some footage for this. Yeah, crazy coincidence. I swear this wasn't planned, but while recording, some of the menus in Codename Allnight just broke. Their size and positioning were just wrong. Come to find out, ClickTeam Fusion 2.5, the engine that I used to make Codename Allnight, it updated, and it added a new property to sub-applications, the objects that display the menus. For some reason, when it's unchecked, some of the menus just bug out. Anyways, flashback aside, for Codename Allnight's original timetables or due dates, or whatever you call them, yeah, I rarely met them, and more often than not, I was really behind. The increased complexity of the game and working on content at the same time had a lot to do with that. Good news is I did make release on time, but even that was crazy. Of course, no one knows this, but there were features that didn't make it to release. I don't exactly remember what features didn't make it, but if I had to try, I think it's the Secret Society. Really, I don't have a definite fix for this problem. All I can say is to just take it easy on yourself and give yourself a little more time for your timetables. Like, think of it like padding. For example, if you have a feature that you think can be implemented in 1 day, say it's due in 2 days. Trust me, that will go a long way for your sanity and also for morale too. Well, that's a lot of mistakes for sure, but in retrospect, this was guaranteed to happen. I hopped in and just started making Codename Allnight without much planning or thought, just inspiration. The 2 mistakes that really shaped Galaxy Frontier are definitely my goals being bigger than my actual skill level and scope creep. Those 2 just made the complexity of this project way too much for me to handle. Thus, Galaxy Frontier was born. For the final messages of this devlog, I'll leave some advice that's got me through these failures and periods of grind and struggle. The indie game industry is flooded. Every platform, computer, mobile, well, I'm not so sure about console, but that's a mountain in and of itself. So yeah. Anyways, because of the flood, make sure that your game stands out and never give up. Every failure or obstacle you face can only make you stronger. Take it from me. A lot of the concepts and logic that I spent months perfecting for Codename Allnight, I was able to use them for Galaxy Frontier and advance development on it. My mistakes in regards to promotion is why I started way earlier with SAVG and didn't announce Galaxy Frontier until I handled a bulk of its development and also handled the paperwork for it as well. Well, that's enough babbling for now. Thanks everyone for joining me in my journey and also sitting through my story time. For the next devlog, we're gonna still be on break for Codename Allnight, and we're actually gonna tackle some of the bugs in Galaxy Frontier. After all, we gotta get it perfect for release, right? Alright everyone, leave a like if you enjoyed the time in the lab today. Let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe for future projects and experiments in the lab. Have a good one everyone.